Hello. Hi, Nikki.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for making the time to talk with me.
Yeah, sorry I'm a little bit late, but
Completely understand you're here. It's a very hectic and challenging time. So I truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. I think I shared with you wanting to do a story that really looks at the organizing that you're doing and trying to lift up the response and make sure that that side of the story is really being told. Um, and so I just had a few questions, and I don't want to take too much of your time. But the first, I just really wanted to talk about, Siembra has been organizing for several years in North Carolina. Can you talk about what Siembra does and how you've been preparing for events like we've seen over the last week with the Operation Charlotte's Web?
yeah. So we started in 2017, in many ways as a response to the first Trump administration. In that time, we did a lot of neighborhood-based defense organizing. So people would invite us to their neighborhood. We would teach them how to canvas, and we would do it together. And then we would help people put on Know Your Rights workshops in their neighborhood and start like a neighborhood WhatsApp group so that people could get to know each other. One of the things that we found was that oftentimes in immigrant communities, people um, people like will say like, "Oh, I'm just like looking to get from home to school or home to work and back. Like I don't talk to anybody." And we actually felt like part of the isolation of that was actually making people more unsafe. People are safer when they know who lives in their community, who their neighbors are. And so then from there, we also started in the first administration organizing an ICE watch program. So we had a hotline where people could call and report suspected ICE sightings, and we would have volunteers who were trained to verify whether whatever this was actually ICE activity or whether it was something else. And the reason we thought that was important is because we wanted immigrant people in North Carolina to feel like they could fight for better living conditions. And we knew that it's not just ICE detentions themselves, but the panic that they could happen at any time uh, sometimes keeps people from, asking their boss to pay them what they owe them or, fighting for their rights with regards to their housing situation or many other things. And so, and we've seen it, we've seen this play out. Uh, in the time that I've been at Siembra, we started in after the Trump administration was over, we really started doing much more work on wage theft and workplace abuses and helping workers organize to get back the money that their boss owed them. And so you could see how much the changing conditions of not feeling like they could be detained at any time helped workers feel like they could actually start to demand better treatment at work.
Over the last week, Siembra's trainings and meetings have brought in hundreds of volunteers in Charlotte, Raleigh, other places. I was on a call last night where people were popping up from Monroe and everywhere. Can you share a little bit about what these trainings are about and any especially valuable insights or results that you've seen come out of that?
Yeah, so we thought of these trainings just because one of the things that we had noticed is particularly in a place like Mecklenburg County, even before this Border Patrol operation, there had been higher rates of immigration detention and ICE activity there than really anywhere in the rest of the state. And so for a lot of people, even just the ICE activity in Mecklenburg County was really getting in the way of their daily life. And so we came up with this idea of having safe to work, safe to school patrols because a lot of the people getting detained were getting detained on their way to work. Um, and so this idea that there would be people trained to help other people get to work safely, get to school safely, get home safely, uh, and really just bring more visibility to the fact that even when there's not a big operation, this is happening all the time. And so what we've seen in the last, several days is hundreds of people, like you're saying, take this training, show up to a shift, become shift leads and train other people so that lots of people are suddenly able to take action quickly to help people get home safely, to help kids get home from school.
Yeah. And it seemed I saw the overflowing pictures of the church in Charlotte. There was the same situation in Raleigh. Have you been surprised or especially encouraged by that response?
I've been really encouraged by it. I mean, I do feel like North Carolina is such an interesting place, but I think most people in the state have some connection to someone who's an immigrant. And so I think most people, when they realize that it's not actually violent criminals getting detained, when they realize it's basically anyone getting picked up off the street, I think most people don't want that here. And so, yeah, I've especially loved, seeing like the older church ladies, getting trained. But just seeing everyone, yeah, all kinds of people want to take this training has been really encouraging.
One other piece that you've talked about is the business community, and you're encouraging businesses to become Fourth Amendment workplaces. What is that, and what has been the response so far?
Yeah, so early in 2025, or maybe even late in 2024 after the election, because so many of our members are workers, our members started to say, like, okay, well, what if I have a boss right now who's actually like a good boss? And my boss is wondering what they can do to protect their immigrant staff. And so we came up with this idea of Fourth Amendment workplaces so that our members could talk to their employers about, these immigration detentions really don't just impact the immigrants themselves. Obviously, they impact families and communities, but they also impact employers. Uh, when at the beginning of the year, a lot of what people like Tom Homan were saying was that they were going to rack up these big numbers by doing workplace raids. And many times during workplace raids, ICE doesn't have any kind of warrant. They're just walking into workplaces, basically on the grounds of racial profiling. I think brown people work here, and detaining them. And so we wanted employers to know that they have a Fourth Amendment right to demand a judicial warrant before just sharing information or letting any kind of federal agent into private areas of their establishment.
Have you been, how's that going? Or do you feel like, I'm sure you can always be wanting more, but have you been any really positive signs about how businesses are responding?
Well, one thing is that hundreds of people got involved just in trying to canvass businesses.
Mhm.
And then over 200 businesses have become Fourth Amendment workplaces in North Carolina alone. And then the town of Carborough and the city of Durham passed Fourth Amendment resolutions so that, you know, cities are workplaces, they're municipal employees. And so passing these resolutions so that the municipal workers also know what their Fourth Amendment rights are.
And speaking of local elected officials, I was at the press conference, I believe, on Tuesday, and there was a really strong showing in Durham of city council, county commission, people, representatives to the state legislature who were there. What has been your sense of the response of elected officials, either at the local or state level?
Uh, the response in Durham has been exceptional from local elected officials. Obviously, we've wanted more response from local elected officials in Mecklenburg County, and we have wanted a stronger response from elected officials at the state level. I think that what we've been seeing is so unsafe for so many people. These agents with weapons, with tactical gear coming into communities, businesses closing, construction sites gone totally quiet. We won't know, maybe ever, how much money the state of North Carolina just lost
Mhm.
on because of business closures and because of workers staying home, in addition to the fact that it's taxpayer money paying for those agents, their cars, their hotel, their tactical gear. And so I think we would have wanted a stronger response from elected officials just on that.
It does call to mind. I remember when there were, really severe raids like in Georgia in years past, and like, the carpet industry came forward and said, we're opposed to this because of the economic self-interest. There was a thing from a country club in Mecklenburg County that made the rounds about being upset about this. And then in some ways, I'm surprised you don't see a bit more of that. I don't know if it's like political fear or what the context is, but you think there would be more people who would see those ripple effects and speak out.
But I think that's, that's really been on my mind, just this idea of like that the threat of political retribution feels so high, that people are afraid to speak out about basically a military style occupation of the major cities of North Carolina. Uh, like, so it does it does boggle my mind
Mm.
that that feels like it would be a risky step to take.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also like an occupation that was not done in coordination with any of these local elected officials
right,
in a
right.
state where there's already mandated police ICE collaboration. So, that we already have a way for ICE to detain the most dangerous or violent
Mm.
offenders. We already have a way to do that through mandated police ICE collaboration.
Right.
So it just feels like in every way unnecessary.
Got a couple more questions. One was last night, Siembra hosted a training led by two organizers in Chicago about organizing community defense teams. And it seems like there's a real conscious effort to learn from the experiences of other places that have organized resistance. What are some of the organizing lessons and through lines that you're seeing that are common amongst cities and places that have experienced this and are mobilizing against it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really helpful to talk to the people in Chicago about was just how important one, like place-based organizing is. And so your neighborhood and being really specific about people in this neighborhood. And then the other part that was really helpful was just the importance of decentralization of some of the organizing and really like tapping in volunteers to lead and take responsibility. And so it was really helpful to be hearing those things as we were trying to figure out how to bring in all of these volunteers.
I'm sure as an organization, there's some challenges there where there is a bit of a leap of faith where you're taking a lead and really holding a lot of responsibility for making some things happen, but you're also kind of acknowledging the value and strength of a more decentralized approach and some things that may not be really under your control or purview, but that's really what it takes for that grassroots effort to succeed.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Well, just one of my last questions is, it seems like this whirlwind of arrests and detentions might be tapering off a bit, although it's hard to tell. And that seems to be part of the playbook, is that you really never know for sure. But even once that enforcement surge kind of tapers off or dies down, it's leaving communities that are in chaos and in crisis. So kind of what's next for Siembra and your organizing?
I think, what we've been talking a lot about is that there's defense and there's offense. And so, in some ways, I feel like we can't know when this particular operation. We don't know yet if it's over or if it's going to be over soon. We also know that whether or not this operation is over, ICE has been active in our state. And so that doesn't mean just because these agents are gone does not mean that immigrants are not at risk. And so I think some of what we have to think about is one, kind of the defense of like, okay, how are our people doing? What just happened? How many people stayed home from work? How much lost income are we talking? And then with the people whose loved ones have been detained, helping those families navigate what is currently a very confusing detention system. Many of the people who have been detained so far, ICE has a locator, but when we try to look them up, it just says detained by ICE, call ICE for more information, and there's no phone number to call. So I think there's going to be some work just helping people navigate that system. On top of that, usually the person who's detained is the main financial earner for a family. And so the economic impact on individual families is something that we're going to have to figure out. We have a solidarity fund that we use to help people in these types who have experienced a detention in their family. So we'll probably be having to work on that. And then at the same time, I think in terms of how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? And how do we make sure that, like our state is complying, if our state is complying with like, okay, look, we have mandated police-ICE collaboration. Why do we need more than that? So I think talking to our elected officials about them taking a stand to say we're good, like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We actually don't need you to come here and do this, and it's actually expensive and harmful.
right? Yeah, you just think of all the ripple fallout effects. My daughter's classrooms were half full, half empty, however you want to look at it, here in Durham. And, people are talking about how are people going to catch up on their schoolwork, kids, and just all these ripple effects economically with children, everybody, and families. And of course, as you're saying, people are detained. It just almost your work grows for a group like yours.
It feels like COVID in some ways, like all of a sudden we were like, you have to switch that to virtual. We have to, it's like a pandemic. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do, and I think one thing that I feel optimistic about is that we have gotten more focused about, like we have to do the work of taking care of our people, and we have to do the work of helping them navigate the system, and we also want to build the kind of political power to ensure that this does not happen again.
Right.
And so we are asking people, elected officials and business leaders and faith leaders to sign on. We have a letter at defendandrecruit.org/safenc. And it's a letter where we are asking them uh, you know, to ask the state's leaders to take a stand so that every North Carolinian can get home safely.
Well, last question. What is your message to people in North Carolina that want to, or even nationally, that want to plug in and get involved and support the cause?
For people in North Carolina, if you go to defendandrecruit.org/NC, you can see the trainings that we have coming up. For people across the country, defendandrecruit.org, we do have trainings that we've been doing all year long about immigrant defense work. And so those are still available. And I think uh, also just, it's been so encouraging in places like Durham to see like people really take responsibility for their school or um, for the restaurants in their neighborhood and for, the places that they know that where immigrants live. And so I think that's the other way I would suggest people plug in is just like making those connections.
Well, that's fantastic. Is there anything else that we missed that you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, hey, again, I really appreciate your time, Nikki, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Good to see
Okay.
you.
Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.